I am Sivarama Prasad, visiting faculty at IARE. Good evening to all. We will see how this prototyping and prototype is playing a role in new product development. Actually, it is the life. It adds life to the new product development. Generally, every activity in an industry starts from needs and desires, serving the society, people, market, which is always very, very dynamic. It changes, it demands, it controls also. But the customer or user is the primary in this case. And industry always wants to serve the current and also the emerging new. So that emerging new, nowadays, it is moving from predictive, rational, technology oriented to creative, innovative, dynamic, iterative, and finally, the user-centric is becoming the major goal. That is why it is exploring new ways, new resources, new ways, and wants to meet the sometimes unrealistic demands also. And basically, the interest is raw materials is to be converted to returns. And you have to meet the customers through supplying products, services, apps. That is, in a simple way, what industry wants. If you see manufacturing related industry, we started getting into different stages from the days of industrialization. Now it is getting into 3, 4, 5 like that, and getting into digital and also internet oriented, remote controls, a lot of things. And here, one manufacturing related industry is always interested in making the products. Then it has to be supported by the computer industry, where hardware and software are very, very crucial. Softwares, there are operating systems and there are some special softwares for application by the end user. And when you go into applications, there are some specific programs for a specific end user and also for specific field to do the regular works, where you have to use standalone or website or servers, because the data is very important here, especially in applications. When you are creating the data and processing, it is very, very crucial. And there are some recent times that apps, this also same, but mobiles are used because mobiles, they have an access to web and also it has got internet facilities and all WhatsApp, everything. So it is easy for retrieval for the public. So public usage is more in these apps. Then we get into services. Some are manpower related and supported by systems. Whatever you see today, Uber or Ola or Swiggy, they are all supported by the net and manpower serves the final real thing. Like this, there are a lot of things. And when you get into other financial reservations, renewals, bills, these are all day-to-day transactions purely on software or program oriented. This is how the industry is changing from a pure manufacturing to application, remote operation, digital, internet, and giving solutions at the user, for the user, and he is giving the convenience to the user, and it is offering some lot of solutions which a customer or user need not spend time by going to the real site. So these creative solutions, totally new, which were never before, when you offer it, if you want to offer it without verification, without validation, or without following the regulations, there is a high risk of innovation. That is why this prototype developing, trying, testing, verification and validation, finally getting it approval, authorized usage becomes very, very crucial stage in a new product development. Otherwise, it has no role. It is just a test or validation by the designer to see whether his idea is working or not, or is it feasible or not. But in today's world, because of these applications getting into this demanding, creative, the high risk of innovation and creativity is being checked and verified by this prototype. That's why prototype is gaining popularity and it becoming a necessary item for every project. Normally in design thinking, we do it that 5 stages into 2 major phases. First stage, we focus on engaging with the user, interacting with the user, and find the real need and come out with a good idea which can really solve by involving with the user and customer. This forms the basic foundation. Then comes that idea is to be converted into a solution. It is an activity and it is a model or it is a product. That is the stage of prototype. And here we test, authorize everything. And then we get into the next step of implementation. This is where you exercise execution and live with it. And whatever lessons you want to learn, you will learn. And whatever good things you have, which you will continue for next thing. This is how this prototype is a connecting one from idea to the implementation. And in a general product development, there are various steps. First, it is the initial 3 stages. It is being done with data collection, problem statement, coming out with a solution, then idea, and working on it for feasibility, desirability, viability, then coming out with a good solution which will be used. Here, design thinking comes in various ways, and also the skills which you have to do is, which you have to acquire or learn is imagination, critical thinking, creative thinking, and divergent, also convergent, innovation, and entrepreneurship, commercialization, and promotion of your products. These are all the skills which you have to develop. It is not that you have to become master, but you have to acquire it or you have to take support of these as and when required. Then comes the product development. When you come into product development, it is purely on the manufacturing. It is purely on development of the design and converting the design into idea into design, design into product or a first side sample. When you make the sample, that you will validate, you will test it, you will go it, then you go into the real product development. Real product development will take into account the full production, whereas this prototype, it takes care of sample development, especially for clarifying all the doubts and also for getting into the next stage of manufacturing. Generally, how the decisions are made, if you see, first one is when the issue is very clear, there is already an established process and you are only trying small improvement or small corrections, then everything is clear. Thinking is sufficient. There is nothing much you have to do it. So with thinking you will explain, then you will create a model which can satisfy everybody. And since everything is working, it is only a small modification. So you can make it through without much efforts. Then is seeing. When you want to see, here what happens is you are combining 2-3 groups or 2-3 solutions and you are giving a creative solution by offering some of the already tested or some maybe new but to be tested. In this case, you have to develop the product. That means you have to see the sample, and here prototype is a must. And here in this prototype, it may be a sample for concept or sample for clarifying or maybe for final. Then comes doing. Here it is a creative one. It is for the emerging new. That means none of the surrounding people or contemporary things can visualize this. We are going to give a breakthrough. And here nothing works. You have to make it, ensure that concept, doing, product, and you have to make it product and come to a solution where it will work. And that is why this last one takes more time. And here many prototypes will be doing in a iterative methods and also for different stages. At a different stages you will be checking, you will be testing, you will be doing a lot of things. So 1, 2, 3, these three, they become part of basis for prototype. If it is for basic understanding, like that thinking first, there is no need to look too much into details. And in real time also, it can be explained through presentation, sketch, drawing in a very simple way. Because it is mainly for basic understanding, not for showing or clarifying or anything. It is general, first thought. Then comes develop the samples. Samples when you have to make at this stage, the technology may be requiring more, but you cannot bring the technology here. So you will try with simple basic methods and which may not be 100% same, but look like a real time, which is similar, like that you take it. Here the major focus is on feasibility. That is the concept proving, designer verifying, lab and some mock-up models for visual and also just to have a first look appearance or something like a look like. It may not be real product, but concepts and all you will try. Then comes real time or lab. It is mainly for assumptions versus actual working. You may be assuming things, but in reality actual working may be different. And you may have to give it for market demo. Or sometimes it is pilot batch. And most of the cases, when you have to give it for testing or approval, that time also you will make the samples. Mostly from the regular process or some basic process, which doesn't affect the final function or final approval parameter. Then, at times, for whom we are making it. That is a target group of the people. First one is the purpose and the process. Second one is the people for whom we are making. Is it for designer himself or is it designer to team members or designer to management, customer or market or to the investor? In these cases, the first one, whatever you have made in a basic understanding doesn't work. You have to make it a little more better. and you may have to use animated models. You have to create database, menu, interface, everything you have to do almost 50% or 60% to the reality. Here, unless the target group of people are convinced, you may not get an approval to go ahead, or you may not get the support of the supports infrastructure, or you may not get a team first of all. All these things will make you to put more efforts and focus on this to ensure that the people who are all involved are confident and they are objectively supporting you. Then comes when it is required at cost. That means the timing and the cost. If it is at initial startup, only the idea, or just a design feasibility, or a trial function for the user, or it is only a pre-project activity, or it is for a demonstrating to a fund partner. Here, you have to do it in a very fast time and with a low cost. You have to ensure that you are using more of an available equipment, available process than inventing some new process. Though the real time it may be a creative process, here you have to try with some of the existing things. Otherwise, the cost and time it will ensure make that prototype is not itself viable. That's why the easier, the economical, the earlier, the clear, and the better. These are the few terms based on which prototype gets the priority. If it is very costly, if it takes a lot of time, and anyway it is not giving clarity, and it is not easy to make, then prototype will not take it through. And another basic thing is how early you do these. That clears doubts and it solves a lot of the heavy loss. If you are doing it at the beginning, that means very early stage, you will realize then the correction cost or the prevention cost is very less. Suppose you have gone through halfway, at that time you have found, then you have to correct whatever is previous, and the revision costs are higher than the earlier cost. Suppose you are deciding it at the end, then the failure cost is very heavy because you have already installed a lot of processes, equipments, you have gone through a long way. But if you are doing it after launching, then it is a failure and the loss will be abnormal. That's why this prototyping will tell you what are the errors or which will not work at an early stage so that you can do correction or you may discard it. That's why expectations to ideas, ideas to design, designs to drawings, and drawings to first look of product. This has become very, very critical to prevent costly errors. So for doing it, there are some terms like low fidelity or high fidelity. In low fidelity, it doesn't give full details, but it gives a little amount of functional details and some level of working details. Here, there are two things. One is horizontal, another is vertical. When it is horizontal means it covers the entire product. That means starting to the end, and it will be more towards user interaction and also to show it to the outsiders who wants to understand from idea to the end of product. Here, the next one is vertical. In vertical, what happens is, you know the product will work, but you have doubts on a small portion where whether that process will take it through or it will get into a hang-up mode. Or sometimes there is a function which you thought it will work like this, but you have a doubt it may not work like that. So you always want to have a check and ensure that the process goes as desired. Here, vertical, that means you are not focusing on the total product, you are focusing only on the one product, one function from top to bottom. And these testing data, wireframes and all, these are basically serve the purpose in less than 50% of the cases. It is only to ensure that you are getting it through into the next phase. The next one is high fidelity. It is almost close to reality. That means the final working. It can be shown to end user or it can be shown to the market and you can get a feedback. High fidelity is used mainly when you have assumed that market will respond like this, how it is responding in reality and how the market changed, and in the process of development there will be also changes. That changes how much you have incorporated, how upgraded the version is for the particular time, or how early you are for the emerging new. You want to know means this high fidelity is a must. That means you are offering almost to the final product. So after this only you will really get into the production. Otherwise, whatever you are investing, if you want to do some corrections, it may be too far to correct it. So when you are working on the feasibilities, generally the first stage, that is identifying pain points, extensive discussions, defining the solution, ideate the solution. These are the initial steps. That is before prototyping. Once you are through with that and once you start the solution, then you have to work with the design. When you are working with the design, the first one is your concept, your feasibility. You have to check. Then you have to get into display type. That means how you want the product to be appeared, how you want it to be really looking. That is the style or the convenience or the user friendliness, especially in physical terms, not in the functional terms. Then you will get into live data. That is where the functionalities, programs, you will get into that. And you have to know the feedback at every stage. Otherwise, the purpose is not served. The feedback you have to take and refine it. And when you go to the next time to the customer, you would have changed that. Otherwise, he will never support you for giving another thing. If you change it, then he will be more interested. He will also think that my suggestion is respected and they are taking care. My feedback is valuable. Then he will give much more better feedback. Then goes into video type. That means as if the customer is using, you will create a video. It is like a movie. It goes, it works. So that the owner, it is not the real owner, but it is a made up. And finally is a working type. So all these things you will work. That is prototype, testing the prototype, feedback from the user, analyze it, again iterate, and then go back to again changes in the design. This is how you will take it. And different departments, they use different types of prototypes. Researcher uses one way, designer thinks one way, engineer wants in one way, product manager looks at some other prototype, marketing others. They all look at different things. See, the marketing man, he may not be very much useful in the first user prototypes, except he wants to give his ideas what market wants. Whereas the researcher, he may not be looking at the final live initial days. except for understanding the what market wants, because he is very far off. So he will start developing. Then in between he will get into linkages. That's why low fidelity and high fidelity, these two things, they work with different departments. Researcher one way, marketing man in another way. And what you have to understand is, when the design requirements are very low and technical complexity is also very less, that means there are less functions, less features, and technically it is already a proven process. You are doing just a small corrections. Then low fidelity and low value proposition is just okay. Suppose your design requirements are high, that is where the functions, features you are adding to the existing, then the usability testing is more important. At the first stage, it is only value for money. And in the second stage, you are little adding the convenience. So the usability has to be better. When you go into the technical complexity, you have to get into the technical limitations. And there, you have to check what is minimum, what is maximum, where you have to play, and to what extent it is risky, to what extent it is not satisfying the customer. These are the two things. And the next one is live data. That means technically complex and design requirements also very high. That means that is what is happening today. Here, you have to go with the human behavior, and you have to go with lot of data, lot of time tested, proven data. You have to be there. Otherwise, when you launch it, it may do lot of havoc, or you may get into a risk, or you may get into a lot of regulatory issues, IPR issues. All these things will come when you are working with the third one. You have to be very clear in this case. Whereas in the other cases, market already experienced. So if you know the knowledge and try to be creative, it is okay. But in this case, you are going to give it for almost like an emerging new. That means new technology, new development, new features. They should not get into a danger zone. With all these, suppose it is a product model. That means it is a manufacturing related. Then you will start with concept. Get into a CAD model. If you are satisfied, okay, get into a prototype. With the material process, you will try. Then, here what you have to do is, the CAD model, whatever you have done, it may not be directly suitable for CNC operation. So you have to do a conversion. That means made suitable for machine operation. So here machining center set up, and you create a part, and you make the part, get all the finishes and all. Then you will go to customer. Here, if it is not satisfied, he will again modify and again process through the entire thing. And finally, you will go until verification, where he is satisfied. So, design phase, part creation, then you get into verification. And at verification, you will change whatever it is, and final part you will come out. That is where you are concluding the final one. And when you are making prototypes, there are two major things: virtual, digital, and another is physical model. Virtual, digital, it may not give the real feel, but it is required to only see pictorials and all, you will understand. But when you really want to see or touch or feel, you have to get into physical models. So you have to get into physical models means there are some traditional, non-traditional. And here, removal of the material, compression, addition of the material, there are three different major processes. That means in traditional machining, from the CAD model, you will create modeling and you will get into programming. Then you will do machining, that is removal of the material. Here It is more or less a realistic process and it is a very time consuming. It was done earlier days. Now when non-traditional rapid proto methods have come, here there are two things: compressive, material removal, additive. All are there. In case of removal and deposit type, you will create a CAD model. From the CAD model, which is original, you will convert it into a different style system. That is, layer by layer, you have to program it. That means every layer it programs so that it will deposit or it will remove. Here, when it is removal or this one, you will use different types of materials. You will not use the real final material, except for in some cases of compression where powder metallurgy is used. Then light sensitive. These are all some of the small samples, but what is today gaining popularity is 3D printing. It is a laser based additive method where you can make the product by addition of plastics or metals, even regular usable metals like stainless steel, titanium, and this is being very prominently getting into pharma field where human body parts are getting into these, where it is one unique and you cannot make tools for these. So this process is taking more and more prominence and popularity into human pharma and medical replacement of human parts. Here it is coming. And when you're doing solid model, generally for you, a CAD 2D drawing or 3D drawing will be like this. From this, you will convert it into layers, or you will convert it into machine language where you will program it for operating the tool. This is on the manufacturing list. Now, suppose you get into a software type. Here what happens is, physical elements wise, you need a server. Or, if you get into this, you are an expert. You have to acquire data and you have to do a modeling. Then you have to deploy it to the application. That is where the people use it. Data, you will collect it and you will do all the modeling or software solution, or you will create a specific solution through your expertise. Here, you need data store. Because you have collected the data, you need to store it. And you are doing software programming and application, then you need a server. And you are going into the user. User also should have some instrument. But in the process, from server to user, there has to be a network. These are hardware elements which you have to focus whenever you are doing a software type. This is on the working model. Then the another one is, when you are making a prototype, is it a sketch type or it is a visual type? Visual has got two things, just a sketch or a style. Or is it a functional? Is it a static functional or interactive functional? Another one is content wise. What is the content? Sometimes it is a dummy text. Sometimes it is a real content. So these three also you have to focus. If you are not focusing these three and these major hardware and your software, it doesn't give the full picture. Unless you focus all these, you cannot really make a product or a prototype. Suppose if you want to understand it in a simple way, let us take a regular cooking and a regular software engineer. who has got a domain knowledge. He has got a lot of knowledge. And same way, a cook, chief expertise. He is the main chef. He is having a lot of knowledge, experience, and he has got the capability. But what market wants? Market doesn't want him. His product is shown in the left hand side. That is, the final product is a food item which should look better, it should taste better, and it should be easy to eat, it should be served better. So all these conditions he has to meet. In the same way, software also, it should be user friendly, it should be easy to operate, and it should be able to guide the user, and it should not confuse the user, and it should automatically give solutions. It should be fast enough to not test the patience of the user. How you will do it? How you start cooking? First you will go to the market and get all the ingredients. Vegetables, fruits, all those things. Same way, you go to the market and collect all the data. What is required? What is past data, present data, and what is looked forward for future? How you have to do it? That you will create. Then you will prepare the ingredients. That means small activities like washing, cleaning, cutting, and then removing the bad elements and using the fresh or new, right elements. You will take it. You will screen it so that you will always give right input to the process. Same way data engineering you will do. You will group it. You will take the trends. You will create different cells and modules, and you will create all the data into their respective cells. Here it is a data preparation. That means data collection, data preparation. Then you will get into cooking techniques. What are the cooking techniques? Is it a frying, or is it a boiling, or is it a microwave, or is it normal flame, or is it gas, or it is a pressure cooker? Which method you are going to adopt? This is the real subject. This subject only the experts know. You cannot do, or you cannot delegate it to others. He has to really work on this. Same way here, machine learning. Here, the real software technology comes into the programming methods. Then comes utensils, cooking utensils. That means flame is there, process is there, everything is there. But how really you do it? You do it in stainless steel pot or a mud pot, or how you stir it? Is it an automatic stirrer, or is it a manual stirrer, or how you hold it, how you will transfer it, how you transfer the data or food items into next one for the next process. That and all is called architecture and technology. Here you do your coding and programming, where these are the tools with which really you make the machine understand this. Unless all these are there, you will not be able to give what customer wants. That's why raw materials, data preparation, learning algorithms, and hardware and software, these are all to be focused. And most of the times, they may be available. Then at least you have to select it properly based on the assumptions and realities. And the next one is the programming. Traditional programming was you have an input and you want an output. Output you don't know. Or you have a desired output. There what happens? You create a program. You create through rules and you write entire steps so that input gets into process, and that process or program or rules, they make the output, and the output you will check it whether it is a desired output or it is not a desired output, undesired, or it is a risky one, or it is a totally surprise. Then you will correct the program and you will make it ensure that output is what you want. And there is another method called machine learning and coding. Here what happens is, you give input and you give output also, and you create rules. How you create? That means you know the input and you know the output. This you are giving it through data. That means you collect the data of past, lot of experiences, lot of data you have to collect and give it as input. Understand how it is moved into output. Here you need not understand how the process, but you have to arrive at some of the patterns, trends, logics, probability theories, all those things you have to do. And based on the data and trends and logics, it extrapolate and predict some of the new events based on the past. Here, it predicts the reality which is going to happen afterwards. It is not creating reality, but it only predicts. So here what happens is, based on the world, it gives a recommendation. Here, the only thing is, it cannot be creative. It cannot give creative one or innovative one. It works on the past, and that too good past. And the way you have given, it predicts and gives a recommendation. How it is giving is, input and output is there. So he is creating rules and programs. And with that program, when you give new input, he will use that old program which was learned based on the output. It gives an inferred output, which most of the times it may be equal to reality or it may not be. But at this case, it is only a supportive element for the man who is working on the reality. That means it tells, in past it happened like this, in most of the cases it happened, and it will happen like this. But suppose if you are adding your creativity and innovative, you can make it to work for you. In the process, what happens is, programming a computer, writing a code, building a software, learning to write programs, it becomes a major activity. And the biggest thing is, when you are writing, you create different ways of thinking and you will get into more details, different ways, right, wrong, lessons, good, bad, everything you will learn. You will look into that and you will think more and more wider and deeper, and it stretches your mind, and it is one way of a method for new creation and new innovation. That is why the programmers, they know the shortcuts and they know how to cross the hurdles, how you can think newly and create new methods. That's why this is a good mindset which will help you to make you more and more positive and more creative and innovative. That's why it is better everybody learn this, so that you can be very creative and get into solution modes than problem modes. That's why what happens is, in our regular thing, the first three things you look for base. If you are built expertise, you may move fast forward. If you are not built expertise, you may do regular way. But in prototype, the more focus is done on prototype. You have to think, you have to learn from users, you have to take the feedback, you have to refine, and finally you have to give a product which user likes and wants, not what technology gives. You have to modify the technology to make it suitable for the user. Like this, if you just club it, there are many ways and means to make all your stakeholders to be with you and take it next way forward. That is, in a very beginning, it is oral, which our earlier people used to do. Then later on, write and show, then draw and explain, then computerized models, then collect similar things and tell, since it worked here, this also works like this. So similar, you are improving. And next is partly or fully make models, scale down version, small, simple working. All these things mostly for internal. It will not go to the external, and also it will not go to too much of creative things. They all work with small improvements, small corrections, a little above the existing, such things. When you are doing it in a very big way, you have to get into the hi-fi. That is where you have to make models either to the size or look like, or a simple one, or as it is. And real size models, that also will make it with features, without features, functional or is only for look, or sometimes functional, either fully functional or partially functional. Finally, you get into the demo models, where you will take these models for appearance, looks to customer, non-functional or fully functional, and work as per the requirement of the customer. This is how you will pass through and you will come to the final prototype. And during the prototype, everywhere you will test it or you will validate it in a different way. In the beginning, you will test it for appearance, features and visuals. That is touch, see, feel, all those things. It is more like a front end to the user interface. Then once the design and development is done, you will go for testing, that time for user experience and user need. Is it deployed properly and is it ready for production? So there you will do it testing in a different way. Both are testing, but here it is a different testing. So to club it all, first you will collect the data and requirements. Then you will do a quick design and make a build prototype, which is low fidelity, proof of concept, feasibility, user desirability, and just for looks, user interface and front end. That means it doesn't give a full picture of inside, but it gives external thing. There you will go for customer evaluation and you will check for his requirements, and you will also check what he thought, whether you have really conveyed it properly into the product. Based on the feedbacks, you will go back again to modify the prototype. Or if customer is satisfied, you will directly get into the next stage, where the design, programming, coding, testing, everything will go one by one and build a prototype. Is it medium or final? Here what you do is, while doing it, because based on the customer satisfaction and evaluation, you try to redefine the requirements. It may be same as earlier, or you may change it here. Based on that, you really build the software, because you have checked user interface, you have user specific things and user experience. You have to check next. Here, users' requirement, whether the features and visuals, everything is taken up or not, we will check here. Here the need is only on the functions and features, whether you are incorporating or not. Then what happens is, you are almost getting into the final prototype. So at this stage, the testing is direct functions, direct usability, norms, approvals, regulatory, and you are getting into the direct user level experience. Here, Once it meets, then you will go for launch. Small corrections you may have to do region wise. Sometimes a common one, or sometimes off-site, on-site, developer, user, customer, all the three. They have to do some refinements and they have to do integration based on the local conditions. The product which is working in Kashmir, it may not work in Hyderabad, or it may not work in Chhattisgarh, or it may not work in Bombay. Not that it will fail, but the last 10 to 20% of the fine tuning has to be done with reference to the local working conditions, practices, and different cultures. That is how you have to get into the prototype. Finally, you will give a good prototype if you think in these lines. And that is the success for new product development. If you miss or if you take a wrong step, you may end up in heavy loss, or sometimes it is manageable, sometimes it may not be. That is why please focus and give the due importance for prototype. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.